Familia en Cristo, buenas noches. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Here's our Bible study for this evening. I was thinking about a phrase. It's in the Bible, actually. It's a verse in the Bible. I was thinking about it, and I remember the first time I read it many, many moons ago. It says this. It's found in Solomon chapter 2, verse 15. It says, "It's the little foxes that spoil the vines." Interesting, right? What does that even mean? Well, it means this. It's the small compromises that we make that ultimately destroy us. Sometimes it's not the one decision that brings somebody down, right? That collapses the Christian. Sometimes it's a series of compromises, and the enemy is very, very patient. Do you remember last week I was just talking to you about subtle deceptions? Not every attack is going to be obvious in your face. In fact, most of the attacks of the enemy are going to come through the side door of deception. Okay? They're going to be like we shared in Joshua last week. These guys that came to him, right? They look pretty tethered, pretty beat up, pretty worn out. And they came with flowery speech, but they were deceiving Joshua. We live in your backyard. We want you to make an alliance with us. And you remember Joshua's biggest mistake is he did not talk to the Lord. He didn't inquire of the Lord. That's where everything went south. He should have talked to God. Listen, we need to talk to God about everything. And I do mean everything. Tonight I'm going to share with you another way in which the enemy seeks to deceive us and even destroy us. Are you ready for this one? It's called exhaustion. Exhaustion. Listen, in times when we are exhausted, and I'm talking extremely tired, I trust if you're listening to me right now, you've been there. We need to be super careful. We need to be discerning. We need to get some rest. We need not make major decisions when we are exhausted. This evening, I want to share with you a story about that, about exhaustion. This man died in his comfort. Our story is found in the book of Judges. Quick background on the book of Judges. Judges takes place during a very dark time in Israel's history. We are told that every man did what was right in his own eyes. So this is chaos. This is a chaotic, sinful time in Israel's history, a very dark time in history. And you're probably aware of the sin cycle that takes place in the book of Judges. It goes something like this. The people of Israel, the nation of Israel, would go after other gods. And they started serving these other gods. These other gods were demonic. In fact, people would sacrifice their very children to these foreign gods. God had told them to stay away and to not intermingle with them. But the children of Israel would go running after these foreign gods. They would then make the Lord angry. The Lord would deliver them into the hands of their enemies. They would be oppressed. And after some time, they would cry out to the Lord. Well, the Lord in all of his mercy would send a deliverer. A deliverer literally means a judge, somebody to rescue them. Israel would gain the victory. Times of blessings would come. But then guess what would happen? They would go right back to their old ways and follow after the foreign gods. And the sin cycle starts all over. We have some judges that are kind of famous, if you will. One of them being Gideon. Who doesn't know the story of Gideon? Another famous judge that everybody knows practically, his name is Samson. He was one of the judges of Israel. And there was a woman judge in Israel. Anybody know her name? Remember her name?
Deborah.
Deborah. That is right, Deborah. We find Deborah in Judges chapter 4. This is where we're going to land tonight, all right? Judges chapter 4. Let me lay down a little bit of a foundation for you, give you some context. Here are the names of some of the characters in our story. The first name is Sisera. Sisera is the commander of the Canaanite army, and he has 900 iron chariots at his disposal. Listen, this guy is a heavyweight champion. As it relates to war, he is a decorated veteran. The guy is fierce. That's our first character. Our second character is a guy by the name of Barak. Barak is a commander of Israel's army. All right, so we have Sisera, commander of the Canaanite army, and we have Barak, who is the commander of the armies of Israel. So Deborah calls Barak and says to him, "Hey, Barak, God is going to deliver Sisera and his army over to you. The Lord is going to fight your battle. The Lord is going to bring victory for Israel. The Lord's going to do it. Listen, the Lord's going to fight the battle, and God is going to give Barak the victory over Sisera. But Barak is not ultimately going to kill Sisera. Deborah adds an interesting prophecy. Go read it, Judges chapter 4. She says this: Sisera is going to die by the hand of a woman. And now that you have that background, we're going to pick up our story in Judges chapter 4, verse 15. Keep in mind, we're in the heat of battle now. Sisera and Barak and their armies are fighting against one another. We're told in verse 15, and the Lord routed Sisera. Notice, who's winning the battle? Question. Who's winning the battle? The Lord is winning the battle. The Lord is fighting every battle for Israel. And can I tell you something? Can I encourage your heart right now? The Lord is fighting every battle for you. Whatever you're facing, the Lord is fighting for you. Isn't that a comforting thing to know? That the Lord is fighting our battles. Right here, we read, the Lord routed Sisera. That word routed means soundly defeating. It means confusing. It means literally to beat them up. So the Lord is beating them soundly in this battle, in this war. And all the chariots and all his army with the edge of the sword before Barak. And Sisera, look at, he got off his chariot and he fled away on foot. But Barak pursued the chariots and the army as far as Harosheth Hagoyim, and all the army of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword, not a man was left. Now in verse 17 is where the story really gets interesting. We're talking about exhaustion. Sisera has been fighting all day. He's getting beat, and now he's taken off and he's running. He's running for his life. He's exhausted physically, he's exhausted emotionally. In every sense of the word, this man is exhausted. And here's a word of warning for us. We need to be especially careful, watchful, and discerning in times of exhaustions. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Seasons of exhaustion can be very dangerous, as we're going to find out here in this story. Here we begin in verse 17 again. However, Sisera had fled away on foot to the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber the Kenite, for there was peace between Jabin, king of Hazor, and the house of Heber the Kenite. So here in verse 17, we're told that as Sisera is running for his life, literally, he finds himself at the door of a tent of a woman named Jael. And don't miss this. The verse says, for there was peace. That word was is very important. There was peace means there wasn't always peace. It means that they're currently in peace. Let me tell you something. This is a temporary peace. This is an alliance that these enemies have made. Jael, one can say, is a frenemy. A frenemy is a person who pretends to like you, but is really seeking to harm you. My brothers and sisters, let me tell you something. There are going to be people in your life that are frenemies, that are Jaels. Be careful of the Jaels that come into your life. Remember, talk to the Lord about everything. This woman is a frenemy. She's being nice to Sisera, but not because she really cares that he's exhausted or tired. She intends to do him harm. We need to be, in times of exhaustion, we need to be careful that frenemies don't start popping up all over the place. People that we think are there to help us, but they're actually there to hurt us. Are you getting this? So get this in verse 18. Just like the guys from Joshua last week, this lady here, she has some very flowery words in verse 18. Notice it says, and Jael went out to meet Sisera. Interesting. Okay, so Sisera wasn't looking for Jael. Jael went looking for Sisera and said to him, turn aside, my lord. Turn aside to me. Come on in here, my lord. Notice again the false humility and the pretend submission that she is saying. Turn aside, my lord. Turn aside to me. Do not fear. Listen, when your frenemy says do not fear, run. When your frenemy says do not fear is when you should really be scared. Okay, she says, hey, don't be afraid. And when he had turned aside with her into the tent, she covered him with a blanket. Ooh, she provided warmth. She provided safety. She provided flowery words. You're my Lord. I'm submitting to you. Hey, come on in here. Don't be afraid. Be very careful in times of exhaustion who we're keeping company with and who we're fellowshipping with. Then in verse 19, then he said to her, please give me a little water to drink, for I am thirsty. You've been fighting in a battle for hours. You've been running for hours. You're exhausted, right? And you want some water. But notice what Jael does. So she opened a jug of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him. She keeps adding blankets to him, making him warm, and now she gives him milk. He asked for water, but he accepted milk. Sometimes what destroys us is not what we asked for, but what we accepted. Water is refreshing. Water is what he asked for, but he accepted milk. Milk is heavy, makes you drowsy. Milk is a sedative. Don't you know when babies are drinking milk, what happens? They fall asleep right away. How many times did our babies fall asleep in our arms? Just give them milk and they're out like a light. The man wanted water, but he accepted milk. Sometimes what destroys us is what we're willing to accept. Please listen to me. In Sisera's eyes, this is not a foolish decision. In Sisera's eyes, he feels safe. In Sisera's eyes, he's being warmed. In Sisera's eyes, it's a very strategic decision that he's making in order to get some rest so that he can recoup. And because he's exhausted, please listen to me. Because he's exhausted, he's not discerning. Because he's exhausted, he's missing all of the warning signs. This woman is a frenemy. This woman is coming with flowery speech, and this woman gave me milk instead of water. He's missing all of this. Because he's exhausted, he has no discernment. Listen, what kills this man is not the battle. What kills him is fatigue. We have to be careful when we are exhausted. Listen, it was Jesus in the wilderness. When was Jesus tempted in the wilderness? Day one? The first day when he's fresh in the wilderness? No. 40 days he's gone without food or water. It's then that the enemy shows up to tempt him. Listen, the enemy is going to try to dupe us when we are exhausted. We need to know this. We need to know that when we're tired, when we're beyond exhaustion, physically, mentally, emotionally, in every sense of the word, beyond tired, now is not the time to make big decisions. Now is the time to rest and to seek shelter in the Lord. Sometimes what kills us is not what we asked for, but what we're willing to settle for, what we're willing to accept. Sisera asked for water and he got milk. Listen, sometimes people die seeking comfort, and we are comfort creatures. We love comfort. Just give me the quick solution. Give me the way out. We need to be careful that we don't compromise for the sake of comfort, for quick relief. That's what cost this man his very life, as he died in comfort. That's the title of the sermon, Died in Comfort. This man died because he accepted comfort, he accepted milk, and the flowery words of a frenemy. This will be his demise. This is not an obvious trap. Again, it's a very subtle deception. This is a case of misplaced trust. He became very comfortable and vulnerable in the place that he thought he was the most secure. And now notice verse 20. After this man has gotten his milk and is all comfortable and warmed, notice what he says to her in verse 20. Stand at the door of the tent, and if any man comes and inquires of you and says, is there any man here? You shall say no. Okay? These are his final words. His final words before he dies, because now we read in verse 21, then Jael, Heber's wife, took a tent peg and took a hammer in her hand and went softly to him and drove the peg into his temple, and it went down into the ground, for he was fast asleep and weary, so he died. This man died in comfort. This man died in the place that he thought was the safest. Why? Because of exhaustion. Because he was tired, because he accepted a substitute. Listen, the Bible says in Isaiah chapter 40 that when we are exhausted, we are to wait upon the Lord who renews our strength. He made a decision when he was exhausted that cost him his life. So many valuable lessons to learn in this story. And we end here now in verse 22. And then as Barak pursued Sisera, Jael came out to meet him and said to him, come, I will show you the man whom you seek. And when he went into her tent, there lay Sisera, dead, with the peg in his temple. Just as Deborah had prophesied that Sisera was going to die at the hand of a woman, exactly as the Lord had shown her. Listen, are you exhausted today? Are you beyond tired? I'm here to tell you something. You're especially vulnerable. Be careful what you ask for, but be more careful of what you accept. And don't make decisions when you're exhausted. Talk to the Lord. Man, that has been the last 2 weeks has been talk to the Lord about everything. May the Lord give you rest, and may the Lord strengthen you by his Spirit. Listen, let's pray for one another. The world can be an exhausting place, and we've learned this evening that exhaustion can cost us dearly if we're not careful. We lose discernment and we settle for less than what God has for us. May the Lord richly bless you as you walk with him this week. Don't forget, pray for Larry. Tomorrow he goes in for surgery. Thank you so much, and may the Lord bless you.